So even if you're in real estate and you get private money, you're still using the profits to run the business. You're using the lender's funds to run the property. And the property is different than your business. It's part of it, but it's just what you're using as the revenue driver. So it's like you need to go out there and make sure that sales are buttoned up. Then you got profitability and you make sure you know where all your money's going. And then you reinvest it into the order from the chaos that's created. The magic question we should have as not just business people, but just as human beings is, what do I not see? And I think a lot of us, fear drives our decision-making process. So then we end up making the decision that makes us feel good, maybe in the moment, or saves us from pain in the short term, but creates suffering in the long term. I feel more comfortable being in control, even if I'm the one to make it fail, versus like, God, I'm at the end of my rope and I really need to give this all to you. Like that to me sometimes is scarier than having the controlled failure. I think most people would rather have control over a situation and fail themselves versus saying, I'm going to let go. I'm not going to put my hands on the steering wheel. I'm going to give it to someone who I know can actually handle it. And then it might not turn out like you thought it would, but it's going to be better for what you ultimately need. And I think we're scared of that as well, too.
One of the best books I ever read was Profit First for Real Estate Investing. I read this book, Profit First, the very first one, way back in like maybe 2018, and it changed my life. It changed how I ran my business. So I had a chance to sit down with the author of Profit First for Real Estate Investing, David Richter, so he could reveal some of his secrets to successfully managing money in your business. And I'm excited to share that conversation with you today. With that being said, welcome to episode 186 of Nicole Purvy Classified, where we train and don't chase. Welcome to the show, David.
Thank you for having me, Nicole. I'm excited to be here. I love how we got connected and that we're here now and we can chat together.
So I'm going to tell the story real quick about how we got connected, and then I cannot wait to learn more about David. I'm just going to let him talk. But so I learned Profit First, the system for managing my money, a while ago. And within the Better Than Success Real Estate League, our door closed real estate community. Sorry if you're a new member, if you're trying to be a member, sorry, the doors are closed. But in our real estate community, we have a book club. And so when I found out that there was a Profit First for real estate investors, I decided to have our members read it because the regular Profit First system helped me out so much. And so Arthur Lyons, my friend, my partner for the fund, and my friend, and BTS member, he went and spoke at an event, saw David, text me and was like, the guy for Profit First is here. And I'm like, what? So long story short, he's like, you guys got to FaceTime. So we FaceTime and we've connected. And so I was like, okay, we got to have you on the podcast. Really quickly, David, I want to tell you this one other thing. I don't bring everybody on my podcast. I don't, because it's a lot of jabronis out here.
Yes, there are.
So welcome to the podcast, David. I just told everyone how we connected. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words? And, ultimately, I really want to get into the story of how you ended up doing this book with Mike M. and how that even came about.
Yeah. Well, I've had a interesting career in the real estate space. I got started right out of college because I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in college. So that's how I got that totally changed my mindset. I was I was going to go to school, get a good job, all that stuff. And Rich Dad Poor Dad put that monkey wrench in there because I could never think the same way again. So I started with a real estate investing company in my very early 20s. And that's where I saw a small business for the first time. And, and we were wholesaling deals, flipping, doing that type of stuff. We're doing about 5 deals a month when I first started there. And we scaled it up to about 25 deals a month over the first 5 years. We were doing wholesales, flips. We had gotten into turnkeys, lease options, rentals, like creative type deals as well too. So we were doing everything in the single family space. This company that I was with, it was called HouseSmart. There's about, I don't know, 6 people when I started, about 25 people, like when I left 5 years later. But in that company, we were doing that many deals, and I was on the leadership team of the company, but it was not my company. But we did, while I was there, about 800 deals together, because like we were doing lots. So like a couple of the years we were doing about 25 deals a month. That honestly was what kicked me on this road too. Because even though we were doing 25 deals a month, we were spending 26 worth of deals out the door. So it's like, who cares if you're doing all these deals and you've got all this stuff, busy work flying around, if it's not worth it at the end of the day? Because I totally look like I should have gone to a school for accounting and should be a bookkeeper myself and everything, but that wasn't my background. My background was teaching in college. Like I went for like secondary education, and then I'm in this company, and one of the seats I did like though while I was there was like a CFO type seat. I sat in the financial seat because I wanted to. I asked like for that position and said, I'll learn what I need to learn. So I sat with that CPA for a year, learned everything about how to read the profit and loss, the balance sheet. I was asking really ridiculous questions at the beginning, like what's the N stand for in P&L? And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I've only heard it and not seen it written down. So he's like, no, that's an and simple. He's like, it's a profit and loss. I'm like, oh, okay, thanks. So that, yeah. So if you're out there and you're feeling like, I have no idea what's going on with my money, I was right there at the beginning. Doesn't matter where you come from. Man, I was asking lots of questions. So that's how I got started. And that was the company that really got me into researching, like, are other companies like us? Are they making money? But there's really no profit at the end of the day. So that's where I started. If you wanted to have like a starting point for all this stuff, and I could go into the story from there, but I want to at least like take a breath here. If there's any other question you have from that, or
no, just keep going.
Okay. So then from there, we got to the point where doing all those deals and spending all that, I came to that owner with a plan to be like, here's how we go from the red to the black. He had built about 100-unit portfolio, and a lot of those were lease options and single families, and it had lots of equity. Because, I mean, we were buying these in 2012, 13, like at the bottom of the market, and we were in Northwest Indiana, right outside of Chicago. So it was like the perfect place to buy to have equity at that point too. And then this was like 2014, 15, 16, 17, like the pricings were starting to come back a little bit at that point and stronger. So I'm like, here, sell like about 25 of your rentals. Like, here's what we need to cut, you know, in the active business, like the wholesale and the flip. And like, here's how you could get back to the black within like 3 months. Like I had this all laid out, and he was like, no, thanks. And I was like, okay, sorry. So then I left. A bunch of other people left at that point too, because we had like 25 employees, which was another reason why we were spending so much out the door, because we had so many exit strategies and lack of focus that we were so spread out with the resources that it wasn't worth it. So, you know, I was like, so showing all that in black and white, and it's still at the end of the day, you know, that was the decision that was made. And I'm like, well, then we can't stay, and you can't keep paying people, and can't keep doing this.
All right, I got a question. Okay.
Yeah, so go ahead.
So the one thing that struck me just now is you said, hey, if you do this, you can get back in the black in 3 months. I feel like with so many business owners, there is always this one thing that we can do to fix our business at any given moment that will turn us around, and we just don't do it. What are your thoughts on, one, why do you think people just don't do it? 2, why do you think that owner didn't want to change his business? And 3, what do you think the biggest thing that holds people back from just making this one small decision to save their business and for it not to be a big ball of stress?
I'm not sure I can handle multiple questions at a time. So let's do number one first.
Yes.
Let's do number one. So number one was, what is that thing? Was that it? Like, what's the thing that does hold most people back?
Yeah. What do you think the thing is that holds most people back? If you had to put an umbrella over it.
Man, if I had to put an umbrella over it, it is that lack of their fear. It's fear at the core of it, but it's the lack of knowledge. Like, what do they not know? There's a great book called The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. It's my favorite business book of all time. And in that, he has the magic question we should have as not just business people, but just as human beings is, what do I not see? And usually, if we're not asking ourselves that question, you know, like, what don't I see, and how can this affect me? And I think a lot of us, fear drives our decision-making process. So then we end up making the decision that makes us feel good maybe in the moment or saves us from pain in the short term, but creates suffering in the long term. So I think that's also to answer, I think question 2 was about him specifically. Why didn't one of the big fears he had was, I think, giving up any of his rentals. Like, he didn't want to cash in on some of those rentals because he thought, like, I've built this portfolio up. It's taken years to get here. Like, I've done all this stuff. And, he didn't want to do that. I remember him citing that as one of the big issues with that plan. So I think for him, it was the fear of letting go of some of those properties, and ultimately, like, the hard work, like sunk costs. Like, if you've gone too far, like, we've got to get back. And the third one,
wait, hold on. I want to say something. I'm not going to forget the third question. I was just having this conversation with a colleague. She some kind of way, because I've done 9 large conferences, and there is an art to doing conferences.
Oh yeah, big time.
So she told me about her idea for her conference. She didn't know that I was going to totally shoot her idea. She just pitched, because I was telling her I get sponsorship dollars like it's nothing. I can get it so easy. She was like, "We need to start raising money for me." And I was like, "Well, tell me about your conference." She tells me about her conference, and then I'm now reworking her conference. And so she says, so I'm telling her, like, you're not packaging this conference properly, because she's like, what people want is clarity. And I was like, yeah, what people need always is clarity, but that's not what sells them. Yeah. I'm gonna rope this around in just a minute. So I'm like, that's not what makes them buy, even though that's what they need. And she was like, well, that's not true. People are always, the thing that keeps them from moving forward is fear. And I said, fear is lack of clarity. And she was like, no, I don't think so. I said, I'm going to give you a scripture. And this is ropes around to what you're saying. I'm going to give you a scripture. For God did not give us the spirit of fear, for he gave us the spirit of power, love, and self-discipline. Self-discipline is translated as sobriety, self-control. So what that means is, when you have fear, then it also means that you are not being sober. You are drunk. You are not seeing things properly. And then when she said that, she's like, I'm like, yeah, so fear is a lack of clarity. Yeah. You're not seeing everything. You're drunk. You're literally seeing things in an altered state when you have when you are moving in a mindset of fear. And it took me a minute in terms of letting go of my properties, because I had this principle that I was like, I'm going to hold on to my properties forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And I built this thing, and it then becomes a scarcity thing. Like, we end up becoming successful in real estate because we are in this space of abundance, but it quickly turns into scarcity, because now it's like I'm hoarding these properties. And then when I decided to do a $15 million fund, it was like, Nicole, you want to be talking about somebody's toilet, or what do you want to do? Right. You want to be fixing a patch in a roof, or do you want to be like over here, managing your fund, being a fund manager, not talking about none of this nonsense no more? What do you want to do? Yeah. No, and so really I agree.
Well, good stuff. What was the third question?
The third question is, I told you I wasn't going to forget. Yeah. The third question is, what do you think the overall thing is? You kind of answer it, that keep people from making that one small decision that allows them to make that one change in their business.
Yeah, I think besides the fear, that we had touched on, I think it's sometimes when we're faced with the truth, it's we don't want to pull the trigger, because if we got into this position, are we just going to make the same decision? It's almost like, are we afraid of whether it is success or failure? It's going back to, are we going to just go, is it going to be a self-defeating cycle, of like, if we do this again and again, and it could be like, for that specific situation, like, if we got out of the red and into the black, like, is it going to be better for the long term, or is this just a temporary fix? So it could be that going into it, and we don't maybe trust ourselves. And so we don't trust ourselves. If we don't trust ourselves, then we're going to be like, okay, well, and to your point, and I know I can say this in a safe environment here, that ultimately we don't believe in something that's bigger than ourselves, like God, or like being able to rest on something that's eternal versus us. And because honestly, we will fail. We're humans. We're going to fail and mess up. With that, lack of trust is not is not unfounded. Like, it's because we do mess up, but that's why we have to lean on something bigger than that. So I think ultimately that's the big question, the big answer to the question, and the things that we have to be asking ourselves is, can we rely on something that is bigger than ourselves? I've been, like in my own life, I am married and I've had great times and I've had not so great times. And the not so great times are usually when I'm farther away from the Lord, and it's like and in those spiritual strong times, I know I'm relying on something that is bigger than me. Like, obviously the Holy Spirit, like, is supernatural. I'm, like, if I'm natural to the world, he's supernatural in that he can make things happen that I can't make happen. And it's like, if we're having an argument and I am calm and I'm actually leaning on the book of Proverbs, and like a soft answer is going to turn away the anger, then like I need the Holy Spirit in that moment. So I think it's that lack of trust in ourselves and the lack of trust in something that's bigger than us. So there you go. That's at the core.
So do you think that this is crazy? So what you're implying is that you're going to be like, yes. What you're implying is that people will rather have control and have a known failure than the lack of control and it might succeed. Like, they're
and it might turn out like better than they ever think. And
right.
Yes, I 100% agree with that.
To the control than they are than to the possibility.
I feel myself go into that a lot of times if I'm moving away from the Lord. Like, seriously, like if I'm trying to rely, no, I can power through this. I can make this business work. We can get this stuff done. Like, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to make it happen because I feel more comfortable being in control, even if I'm the one to make it fail, versus like, God, I'm at the end of my rope and I really need to give this all to you. Like, that to me sometimes is scarier than having the controlled failure, like that I can have control. So yes. So in my own life, and then obviously in the bigger scheme of what we're talking about, that question, I think most people would rather have control over a situation and fail themselves versus saying, I'm going to let go. I'm not going to put my hands on the steering wheel. I'm going to give it to someone who I know can actually handle it. And then it might not turn out like you thought it would, but it's going to be better for what you ultimately need. And I think we're scared of that as well, too, is that, oh, I may not know what I really need and I might have to change. I might have to change, period. Like, I might have to change as a person. And that's where a lot of people, I think, and myself included, when we get into our own heads and like, okay, is it really more painful to change or not change? And usually we think it's more painful not to change, or more painful to change, when that's not the reality. Because you sit in that not change and you just keep having the same issues and anxieties and stresses and fears and all that over and over again. So yeah, there you go. There's the long answer to number 3.
So you see that with your CFO, simple CFO clients as well?
Oh yeah, well, that's where everyone. Money is a smokescreen. That's all it is. It's like, it's just a smoke. It's a symptom of the true problem of, okay, I had a great conversation right before we got on the podcast together, where with a guy that was very atypical of who I talked to. He's doing less deals this year than he has the last few years, but he's doing more profitability because he's like, I'm tired of just being on the rat race and like just volume, and not feeling like I'm getting anything. I'm like, but he said, here's the key. He's like, I've lived through it enough that I know the way I was doing it was not what I wanted to live. And he's like, that's why I'm doing less deals and more profit now. I'm like, see, this is what we try and tell people once they come into the fold. Like, the thing that you're doing and trying and striving so hard for might not be what you really want or really need out of life. And so that's where it's just getting people to understand, like, okay, what are you really going after? And who do you need to become to either go after it? And will you like that person or not? And will they still have a family or not? And will they still do the things they want to do or not? Like, CFO work gets into the therapy side, I feel like, a lot of times, because it's like, we got to work through some of the money, right? It's like, it is. And it goes into, it's a manifestation of what their inner thoughts are really doing. That's really what money is. It's really just an outer working of what's going on inside. So that's where we have to work through a lot of that when we work with people. And that's where I'm just like, this is why I went into this, because from that company, I also figured out that we weren't the only ones at that point. This was about, I don't know, like at least 7, 8, 9, maybe 9 years ago. And I was going to other masterminds, other events, other people in the same boat, making money, but feeling broke just like we were, doing lots of deals, doing lots of transactions, doing lots of money making activities. But at the end of the day, not seeing anything to show for it. That's what ultimately kicked off Simple CFO, because then I helped another investor that I met in Virginia through another networking thing. That's why it's like you really have to be, if you're in real estate, you got to get out there and you got to at least know people, and you got to like put yourself out there a little bit and actually be a good human being, and, you know, and like talk to people and like go to these RIAs and communities and networking type things. And so I met this guy, worked with him in Virginia. He was in the same boat, only he was doing 1 deal a month versus 25. So I'm like, it doesn't matter how little you're doing, how much you're doing. We all have the same issues. And so that's where with him, he actually took the advice. And so like 3 months later, it was all cleaned up, everything like in the business. He was then making more money and putting more in his pocket than he ever made and put in his pocket before. And that's where Simple CFO was born, because he said, like, just having this clarity and knowing where I am has been life-changing. And so I wanted to give people at least a chance, because if I can remove money, and one of the biggest obstacles in a business owner's life, if not the biggest obstacle, that they let them stop themselves from being who they really should be. So then that's how I've seen Simple CFO, is more like, let's just get some good systems in place and let's get the money, so that way it doesn't have to be this factor every day of you just burning out, and you could actually be able to make the decisions you were meant to make. So that's really where Simple CFO came from and was born. And honestly, that's where I got the book Profit First. When I had a really good mentor in my life, he heard I was starting this company. And so he reached out to me and he said, have you read the book Profit First? And I'm like, no. And so I read the book that night, took 10 pages of notes and said, I want to incorporate this framework with all the real estate investors, because I think it's super simple. It's easy to grasp. I don't have to teach them any crazy things like QBO, QuickBooks Online, or like, I don't have to teach them accountanese. You know, like I can just say dollars, cents, bank accounts. Like that's all we have to talk about. So I'm like, this is what we're going to do. So that's where about a year into Simple CFO, I reached out to Mike McCallus, because Profit First was working for the real estate investors we were working with. And so I got on a call with him and he sanctioned Profit First for real estate investing. That's how I got into it.
What?
Yep.
On a phone call?
Well, here we go. I did play it a little strategically.
Okay.
Because a year before, in order to sell Profit First services like implementation or anything like that, you have to be a Profit First professional and certified through Mike. So I was already paying to be part of that membership, which got me a little bit closer to him. Not everyone has access, but I said, hey, I'm thinking about potentially writing a book here. Can you get me in touch like with the people that were above me? So then they connected me. I got on a Zoom call with him. And I'll never forget, that was like July 2nd, 2020, because that was my birthday that year. So I was like, this is the best birthday present ever, because he said yes, and like, we can do this. So that's how I got him on the phone. And then, honestly, we were just texting last week, myself and him, because, you know, like we've kept a good relationship since then. He's a really good down-to-earth guy, but once he did sanction that book, then I wrote it. It took a long time to get out the door. It was like 18 months after that, because it was like 3 months to write it, which wasn't a terrible amount of time, but like 6 months to edit it, 6 months to like prepare it and get all the stuff inside, you know, and like the actual book binding and all that crazy stuff. And then it's another 3 months to market it or something. It was quite the endeavor, but I would do it 100 times over again. I was writing a lot. I had a young daughter at home at that time, and I still made her a priority, and my wife. So it's like I did 1 hour of writing really early in the morning, 1 hour in the evening, and made sure to fill in everything else around that. So it's just, you can do it if you're writing a book, but you have to schedule the time in, and you have to just sit down and write. So that would be the biggest thing. If you've ever thought of writing a book, you have to schedule the time in, and you have to keep those promises to yourself. I tried to write at least 1,000 words in that hour, which actually isn't as hard as you think if you've got a lot of things to say, because it does not have to be anything good like that you write, because there will be so much cutting and editing later on. You could literally just mind dump anything that you're thinking for an hour. Mine, I will feel like, was a little bit easier because I did have more of an outline to go on what was Profit First, and I was tailoring it to real estate. But that's what my goal was during that time, and that's how the book came to be. Now it's been out. this December will be 4 years that it's been out. I can't believe that. It's going to have a 4-year-old birthday here. It's sold over 10,000 copies up to this point. That was the last time I checked 2 years ago. I haven't checked since then. So it's probably sold more than that. And it's not because I wanted to sell a bunch of books, but I think it's helped people. That's really why I wanted to write it, because I can't work with everyone at Simple CFO, but I can write a book that anyone can download or get on Amazon or Audible or however you read books. So that was a big motivation behind it, was just getting that mindset out to people as well too.
So, okay, that story is crazy. Listen, it's there is a power in finding a mentor, joining their community,
Big
and
time.
having a very specific ask, because you solve the problem for him. Like, hey, how can he's always doing more books and more products,
Right? He's always doing stuff.
It's like, okay, you're going to do this based on my stuff. Like, okay, cool. And I get to proof it. I don't have to actually write it, and my name is going on the cover. Like, so that is the ultimate. Like, how can I work with you?
Yeah.
I wrote a Christian business book in 2017. I did mine very different. You probably did yours way smarter than mine. At that time, there was a book called Rework that had just came out, and it was like all the rage. And when I bought it, it was just a bunch of blog posts. And I was like, and I was writing blog posts at the time. And I was like, I can do this. A compilation. And so I sold the book, I pre-sold the book. Sold like, I don't know, a couple hundred copies.
That's awesome.
And I had the podcast, I had the blog. So I was like, I'll just spend like a week. I had a staff at the time. This is when I had my digital marketing agency. I had the staff at the time, and I was like, hey, you guys will be fine. I'm going to be home writing my book. I'm not coming in. Sat down to write a book. God gave me something else. So then it took me 6 weeks to write the book.
Yeah.
But I had to hurry up because I pre-sold so many copies.
That's great. Oh, man. You had to blitz through it then.
I did. Well, I mean, it was just as quickly as the same way that the God Goals and Money framework came to me was the anti-hustle. That's the name of the book, is the anti-hustle. And it's about moving. At the time, everyone was talking about hustling and hustling and hustling. And I'm like, do you know what this means? And grace is literally the anti-hustle, like undeserved favor, right? To be able to have a goal and really get in the flow and work with God on it. And so that's a whole thing. It's a whole nother framework in the book. But I say all that to say that was smart to say I'm going to do an hour before, an hour afterwards. And then also I'm going to partner with someone who already has a very strong framework. So y'all sold way more copies than I did.
Yeah. And it's just, when I went down that road, it was more about like, I knew the real estate community too didn't have a specific book for them, and they needed it too. It felt like just whenever I went somewhere, people are like, I read Profit First, but I'm not sure how to implement it, like how to do it for the real estate world. So yeah, there was lots of things. And like the business even came before the book, because I had seen so many people just not have clarity in their business when it came to their money. Because like that way they could actually see what's going on and be able to make decisions. Like you can't even make a decision if you don't know what's going on. So that's where from there, Profit First just, to me, crank that up to like a 10 to be like, okay, this is actually going to give people clarity, and they don't have, like I had said before, don't have to speak the language of accountants or bookkeepers or that accountant language. So that's where I wanted to at least give people a fighting chance through that book. And it did. It's gone very well. And it's crazy. I'll have stuff like this happen while I'm at these events. Usually I'm at real estate events, go figure. But it's like, hey, I know someone and they've done a book club with your book. And I'm like, that is awesome, because that's why I wrote it. I want someone to do it in a book club or in a setting like that, where if they're held accountable, maybe they'll actually take some of the action that's in the book because of the action steps we put in there.
So question, what are 2 to 3 principles that before reading this book, right? If you had a curious investor that to be true, that they probably don't know, that you just need to get them really, really clear on terms of, before they can scale to the next level?
Yeah. First of all, be very clear on what you need from your business, need to keep. Like a lot of people just never, they build their business on the hope and pray plan. I hope I make enough. I pray there's some left over sometime. Like profit is a one-day event for them in the future versus a habit that they have continuously. And so we tell people like the first principle is making sure you know what you talked about goals. Like what's your first goal as a business should be, that what we believe is if you're not paying yourself and you're not able to right now, like how much do you need from the business, whether you're in W-2 land still and you're trying to get out of it, or if you're struggling as a business owner, what's the dollar amount that you need that is your dollar amount? Like if you have a family, like factor all that into it. So that way, you know, like this, I wouldn't feel like I'm just surviving as long as I get X amount of dollars every month. So that way everything is at least covered of what we need. And it's not like I'm not trying to, take loans out or run on credit cards and all that. The first thing that we tell people is that. Another thing is we need to be intentional with every dollar. Like that's another principle. And that one, like all this stuff is found in scripture, like being intentional and making sure that you know that money is a defense for yourself. And that if you know where every dollar is going, that way you can tell the money where to go versus it just yanking you around. You don't have a system for the money, but if you have a system for the money, then you can tell where to go and be able to direct it better and put it to better use. Because a lot of people, like if they don't know what you need first and then you don't know where to put it, then it's like, then you're just living this giant rat race that you're stuck on. And then you, instead of living paycheck to paycheck as a W-2 person, you're going to be living deal to deal or sale to sale as a real estate investor or an entrepreneur out there with whatever you're doing. So those are a couple of the big ones. If you want to read the book, the system that's actually behind it is super simple. It's the envelope method. Like you're intentional with every dollar, you give every dollar a name. So if you're going to read the book, those are the big things I would tell you going into it. Like if you want to really dive into it and learn more about those things, then that's where the book could come into play. But those are the big ones.
I was trying to find the scripture and share it on the screen, the one that you were referring, or the one that I thought about. For which of you intending to build a tower sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it? That is Luke 14:28. So, all right, I got a question. One other question. What happens when, and I think it's just literally an aha moment for me. What happens when someone sits down, calculates how much they need to make with the business, bare bones minimum?
Yeah.
And they run it through, I love the chart that Mike made for like, if you're in this income range, right? The targets, right? What happens when, hey, I need to just make this amount of money, but my business is not bringing that in?
Yeah. The first thing, then, I love when people ask that question because I'm like, okay, you realize now you're asking a better question even by asking that. Like before, you might have been like, I need to make more money, but you don't know why you need to make more money, or like you just feel that way. Now it's like, well, I can't even hit these certain percentages. So in order to do this, I need to make this in the business. So that's your first goal. Like at that point, you don't need to be worried about the finance, like the back end, like, do I have all my ducks in a row? Do I have all the bank accounts? Do I have all this stuff? I would set up a very rudimentary system at the beginning, but I would spend like 99% of my business activities being revenue generating. You don't need a fancy website. You don't need a fancy this or that. It's like, go out there, make money, go talk to sellers, put in, if you're in the real estate world, it's like, there's certain things that are revenue generating that you can do. Researching the properties, making the offers on them, like talk to people, go to an event, get around those type of people. Who has a property for sale? I heard Nicole has a bunch of single families that she's getting rid of. Like talk to people out there in the marketplace that are looking to sell. And that's where you're going to start to generate it. So it's like the first thing is a lot of people don't even know the problems that they have and can put a number around them. But if you can say, I actually am falling flat, short $3,000 a month. Well, now this is the exact dollar amount that you need in order to make that up. And then every single waking hour that you work should be on a revenue generating activity.
God, okay. All right. I like that. It's funny. Like I said, I'm redoing everything in my business again. Like I literally wrote everything down. And so I already know where my head needs to be, but like, that's where I am right now. Like making sure I'm spending enough time doing revenue generating activities. I'm reading this book right now called the guy's name is Chet Holmes.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
The Ultimate Sales Machine.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so first of all, this book is like the best kept secret, okay? Because I had never so by the way, those were the percentages that he talked about. I had never I collect books, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes I
Yeah.
just get books and then I don't read it. And so one day I was just sitting in I got like a little study area and I'm like, oh, what do I want to read next? Because I just finished what was that book? Inner Excellence. You know what I'm talking about? The
I don't
guy
know if
from
I've
the
heard
Eagles,
that
do you
one.
remember he pulled the book out on the Eagles? It was like a big thing. While
Okay.
they were playing the game, he sat on the sidelines and read the book, and then it was like the book went super viral. The book was really good. So I finished that book, and then I was like, what am I going to do? I want to buy something. I was like, no, let me just read something that I've never read. So I picked up this book, and like this guy Chet is like, he's that dude. Like he like
Yes.
worked for Charlie Munger. I'm like, how did I never hear of this before? And so one thing in the book that he says that it just keep ringing in my head, like you need to be spending at least, if you're the main salesperson, you need to be spending at least 2.5 hours a day on selling.
Yep.
So like there are other things that needs to be happening right now. And I'm like, I don't care.
Right. Exactly.
Let me get my 2.5 hours per day on selling. I just really don't care. So I knew that I was going to carry that energy. You weren't going to convince me otherwise, but it feels good to be affirmed that like right now I need to be focusing on 2.5 hours per day. And it's been doing really, really well for me. I'm really grateful. But you know, I'd love to hear that. It's like, hey, if you're not making money to meet your percentages, right, then focus on making that money.
Exactly. And that's why Mike has another book, Fix This Next. I really like that one because he's like, if you're going, it has the business hierarchy of needs in it. And it's like, you have to have sales first. Sales is like the bottom run. If you're not making enough, that's what you have to focus on. But then he puts profit next because a lot of people actually skip to the third step, which is order, like systems, processes, people. And he's like, you got to have sales and making money, but then you need to make sure you have a profit buffer. And then you're investing with the profits of the business and not like, because you're not like these big multi-billion-dollar corporations that get the funding from the angel investors and like the VC, those venture capitalists. You're going to be pulling it up by your bootstraps usually. So even if you're in real estate and you get private money, you're still using the profits to run the business. You're using the lender's funds to run the property. And the property is different than your business. It's part of it, but it's just what you're using as the revenue driver. So it's like you need to go out there and make sure that sales are buttoned up. Then you got profitability and you make sure you know where all your money's going. And then you reinvest it into the order from the chaos that's created from sales and like all this stuff. So that's where it's like it follows, like a pattern, and you keep going through it, because if you invest in order, then now you're probably ready to even increase more volume of sales because now you have better systems. Maybe you can hire another person, you can go out there, and then it goes all over again. You can make more sales, make sure you actually have profitability still, and then you can reinvest the profit into the order from the chaos.
So I want you to tell us about Simple CFO really quickly.
Sure.
We're going to head out of here. But I want to say this one thing about how, so everything I will quote the scripture. You already know I've quoted a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
Everything I do, especially on this podcast, is all rooted in faith. So I want to say God is so good because, as I said, I'm doing this whole process all over again, rebuilding my business all over again and having fun with it. I realized in that moment when you just said it. So right now I'm thinking about my first hires again, because I've had, I don't know, 15 people on my team.
Yeah.
Whatever. So right now I'm like, okay, I can't wait to hire someone. So that's what my brain is thinking right now. And then when you just said, that book I did not read by Mike. Okay. And when you just said, hey, you need to think about profitability. First thing that went off, that's what I did wrong before.
Yeah.
Two, I had a whole long conversation with someone today talking about hiring someone in order. And for us to have this conversation and for you to check me, no, not yet.
Yeah. It's those things as you get to read more, and then not just read more, but like experience more, and you get to see other people go through it. And then like with me, like I see it so much because we touch people's numbers and they can't lie to us. Like they can't BS their way through like they can a lot of other companies because the other companies don't get into their QuickBooks or their financial reports. So like now I can really see the people that can that really can scale. They have to make a decision. Like, do I want to scale? Because I will be sacrificing some of these profit percentages to scale, but also, am I ready? Like as a business owner, or do I want to keep more of it right now because I've actually got into a healthy position? But a lot of people don't even get there because they don't have someone guiding them, like to know are they profitable or not, or like do you actually have something that you can reinvest in that's not just the revenue. Like investing revenue back into revenue is not going to get you the business that you really want. It's going to just get you a bigger rat race and a bigger hamster wheel, no matter what you're doing. Even if you have rentals, like people think rentals are the end all be all or like buy and hold, but they're not. If you don't know what game you're really playing, you're playing the game of money. And if you don't know the game to play, and like how to play it, how to set it up and how to keep it going, then like, it doesn't matter what the business is, you're going to feel trapped forever. So there's my diatribe on that.
Amen. And I'm going to cut that up and I'm going to send it to you. And then when you have someone you want to preach to, just send that.
Right? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I can get preachy on these things for sure.
All right. So David, tell everyone about Simple CFO. Give us your pitch, give us your pricing, let us know so we can get you some clients.
So Simple CFO is all about, if you know how to make money, we want to help you keep it. And because of that, like I want to help you get to actual financial freedom, because making money is a part of the equation, but financial freedom takes two pieces, making it and keeping it. So that's where a lot of people have the make money skill. I want to help you with the keep money skill. So what we do at Simple CFO, we have bookkeepers and all that. So like if you need the basic crap taken care of, we can do that. But what our specialty is the CFO service. And you say, CFO, what's that? Chief Financial Officer. And you're like, what the heck? Isn't that like for a $300,000 person sitting in an ivory tower in like IBM or something? It's like, no, we run a fractional CFO. So you get them at a fraction of the cost. And then obviously this is not someone who works for you full time. So you don't have to be worried about hiring a full-time person. And we do three things. We call our solution to keeping more money the financial foundation. We help you make sure you have the right bookkeeping system, process, and person. Number one. Number two, we implement profit first, go figure, to make sure you're running it, you know your percentages, and you are profitable, and you have cash management in place. The third thing we do is a dashboard, where a lot of people need that crystal ball, not for when things go right, but when things go wrong. So we're helping you forecast budgets, the profit and loss, the balance sheet, like helping you become a business owner who knows how to play the game of money and can make decisions from data and not just your gut feeling. So those are the three main things we do up front with every client that we work with. We have different programs. We have like a one-time 60-day, time type thing versus ongoing. We also have an ongoing program where it's recurring, where they're more like with you for a long time. And that's as you're growing and scaling. If you need more of a financial leader for a long time, or if you've got a bookkeeping department or something like that and need a head of it, or we can just do implementations, over 60 days. If you're just getting up and running or started, or like, even if you're in your first few deals or first few, maybe your first six figures, then we can help you at least implement some good keep money practices like profit first or the dashboard, things like that. So that's how we work. You can find us at simplecfo.com. If you want my book, if Nicole's okay with this, you could go to simplecfo.com/gift. So you can download my book for free, the ebook and audiobook. If you want the physical book, that there's not a super easy way to get that to people for free. But if you want that, then you could go to Amazon as well too. That's where the book is. But if you go to simplecfo.com/gift, you can get those other things as well.
Get the free one at Simple CFO. If you want to buy a physical book like me, I'm gonna post my Amazon link.
There you go. She's got an Amazon link. So look in the show notes at her link and go buy it there.
Yes. Thank you so much, David. This was a long time coming. I appreciate you. And everyone, you already know, train, don't chase.